Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today, Danielle. I am so excited to have you on. And I would just love you to tell me what you do, because I read your bio and it said that you're a body transformation coach and you help women shift unwanted weight. And so before you start that, actually, I would love to know how you got here. We all love to know people's backstories. How did they land up doing, what they do now? So how did you end up as a transformation coach?
Well, thank you for having me today. And I guess my story that got me to this point is I have such a massive relationship with weight, that has stemmed from as a child and has taken me right through my life. So that journey has obviously got me to here, and being passionate about helping women lose their unwanted weight, but from an aspect of looking at their relationship with food and, helping them fall in love with their bodies.
So I know, actually you don't know about my background, but I grew up watching my mum struggle with emotional eating. And I can look back now and see that she was sort of stuffing her, emotions down with food. She struggled with obesity. And so I kind of learnt by osmosis and that, to push your emotions down with food, and struggled with bulimia myself in my late teens, early 20s. So did you kind of have a similar journey?
Yeah, my weight journey started earlier. So for me, I had childhood asthma. And although I don't remember back specifically, my mum has said that medical reasons and the medication started me causing weight, gaining weight, obviously. So I was about 8 years old and I was rather large. And I think that was just the start of my journey. I too remember seeing, food being used in ways that helped self-soothe and, feed those emotions. And it probably wasn't until later in my life that I was able to connect those dots of, this is what that was. So I went from being overweight from, 8 till when I was about 15. I started my father actually took me to my first Weight Watchers meeting, and I only went to one because I refused after that. And, I got on the scales, and seeing my weight at that point was like, oh my God, it was shocking. Not shocking. It was a big light bulb. And from there, I started to naturally lose weight. I've just applied myself, and realistically, it just happened as such. It took me about a year, and I had lost about half my body weight.
Wow.
In that time. However, the physical aspect of it was obviously healing, where my weight was shifting and I had lost the weight, but emotionally I hadn't done the work. And obviously being a teenager, I didn't know how to. So I then went the other way, where I became anorexic and struggled that way. And I think I recovered from that, but never really got the help or the tools that I know now to be able to live a life where I wasn't controlled by food or my relationship with food, and I fully loved my body. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely makes sense to me. Those words, controlled by food. And, I had a journey with alcohol, and being married to someone who drank an enormous amount. And so I joined him, but I also can see that I used that to anesthetize what was going on in the marriage. And it was such a mind game, you know what I mean? It was just, I know I shouldn't be drinking because of my health, but I really want one. And it's just all consuming, and you do feel like you're controlled by this substance. And so I actually found it easier to I didn't think I would, but I put my glass down on the 1st of January 2015. I decided enough was enough. And, it wasn't a blanket hard and fast rule. It was, let's do an experiment. I love doing experiments, and let's see what happens here. And I've never drunk again, and I love it. I love the freedom, And I've even at the moment, I haven't had chocolate since February, and I actually find it easier to not have chocolate at all than to try and limit myself with just one piece, because I don't know whether it's that bulimic background, it's the addictive nature of things, sweet things like sugar, but one piece is really hard, whereas I find it easier not to have it all. But maybe you can tell me, because what is the work that you do with clients, sort of like delving in deep and finding those underlying causes?
Yeah, so I think finding the work that I do with my clients is really finding out why. Why is a big word. Like, why are they emotionally connected to their food, in this sense, or what is holding on their weight or keeping their body overweight? Because realistically, our body is just a barometer in our internal world. And I know from my personal journey, like, understanding why I was using food in a good way or a bad way, either restricting it or overeating it, understanding what I was internally needing was a really big part of the process. And when I had that light bulb moment, and there's been several of them throughout my journey as to why I was emotionally connected with food, I was able to kind of break that connection where I can eat chocolate now, and not have that emotional attachment of, feeling guilty after eating it and needing the whole block, or restricting myself to say I won't do that, but my soul kind of needs it.
So are you happy to share one of your light bulb moments? What was for you in your journey?
Yeah, which there was several of them really. I had quite my personally, my weight was so entangled in, so many experiences over the course of my life. And obviously I grew up as a child that, being overweight, I was significantly bullied at school. So, that impacted a lot on my self-worth, which then stemmed into my later life.
But it's really interesting though, because your initial weight gain was not an emotional thing. It was actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Instigated by the medication. Because I'm assuming it was steroids, that lowers metabolism, and you just put on weight so easily. So it wasn't an emotional trigger, that's what I'm looking for, that began that weight gain, but in actual fact, it was all the consequences of that,
Yeah, it was significant. The consequences, exactly right. Like, and especially being a child, and now looking back, like, I think, my mum at a later age, in my 20s, told me this is what happened medically. But as a child, I didn't have any awareness of that. The awareness that I had was the consequences that were happening because of that, and how, I was being kind of labeled different as my weight, by my weight. And it was a journey. Like, I think my latest light bulb moment, going back to my light bulb moments, was, the relationship that I had with food that was stemming from my own personal relationship, and the emotional connection that I was trying to seek from food that I wanted in my relationship. Or needed to feel in my relationship. And that was, a big thing, to become aware of that. But I feel like once I was able to become aware of that habit, and I was able to make conscious decisions on how to seek the emotions that I wanted from my relationship, if that
Mm.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And
And
disassociate with food.
yeah, yeah. I certainly know that, you know, I observe myself. So if I am going, you know, going for that next serve, or, you know, taking that next thing, I'm eating more than I normally would. I'm going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not,
Yeah.
I never put myself down. I have absolutely learned to speak to myself in love, and you know, no judgment, and just that gentle way that you do with a friend. You know, hang on,
Yeah.
what's going on here, Dale? You know, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that was that, as you know, you saying that you observing yourself, that was a
Mm,
highlight in my journey as well, because taking that role as the observer in
mm,
our life, you know, we are so busy these days and making the world go round that we kind of overlook that part,
mm,
like what is going on,
mm.
and what am I feeling. Everything kind of just gets pushed down,
Yeah.
and we substitute that with food. And you know, once you're able to have the observer just role just like you had, and see yourself with compassionate eyes, you know, that's a big
Mm,
thing that I say to my clients is you need to be able to see yourself with compassionate eyes, and really
mm,
at this point you're just doing the best that you can to get
mm.
through with what you're experiencing at this time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, what is the modality that you take your clients on? What is the journey that you take them on when you work with them?
So the journey that I take my clients on is fundamentally we do start with a food. You know, we look at our emotional connection and the why we are connected with food to start with,
Mm-hmm.
and breaking that down from there. I guess then, like we said, I'd like to say that I help them take the observer role in their life, and you know, looking at why we've got those triggers. We've found out why we're connected to food. Now what are the triggers that are, you know,
Mm,
in place for us
yep.
that are creating that connection? So
Mm,
and then once we've got to that point, you know, it really comes back to our self-worth again, and our self-love, and finding that space
mm,
to be able to really consciously fall in love with ourselves and our bodies just the way that they are. Like that was the biggest shift for me, Nick, is starting to love myself for who I am
mm,
inside,
mm,
what I look like on the outside. And
mm,
it was really hard, but once I did do that, and the other emotional work, you know, the weight just slipped away for me personally.
mm,
So it's a really big thing and a part of the journey.
yep. So, do you, when you're looking at triggers and things like that, do you also put in practical things? So, when you've realised that, say, you know, you're sitting down with a coffee and a Tim Tam, that you do something different because that's a trigger. So you're changing
Yeah.
the
So
habits.
I guess when I work with my clients, obviously the diet, or I don't like the word diet, but
No,
there's no really one size fits all to weight loss. So
no.
um, it's very variable, and
Mm,
especially our triggers and our emotional connections can differ greatly.
mm,
But having strategies in place to be able to help my clients, we've identified their why they're connected to food, help my clients identify why, you know, where the triggers are,
mm,
and also giving them the strategies that they can help to move away from those triggers, or you know, shift their awareness and focus elsewhere.
mm, mm.
We do work on that as well, but I guess there's no set like this is how we do it. It's tailor made for
Mm.
each individual client
Yeah,
story, I guess.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. It's very individual, and one of the things that you know, I do with my clients is I believe there's, you know, that whole education part. So you know, for some people, it's just understanding why they're addicted to the donuts or the Tim Tams or even the cheese, you know, because there's casomorphines in cheese that keep us addicted and keep coming back.
Yeah.
And so for some people, it's just understanding that and going, oh, I had no idea. And so it's looking at practical strategies of, well, what can I put in place? What can I do instead? What can I eat instead that isn't going to take me down that path? But there always is that emotional component. And, you know, especially if I'm working with a client who wants to release a lot of weight, I say, you know, really need to be working with someone like yourself, because you need to understand what those triggers are, because we can put all these things in place and we can have, you know, a fantastic meal plan. But if you don't understand why you do what you do, and I think, you know, this is a huge thing, that we have these unrealistic expectations of ourselves. Like I said to someone the other day, I still wouldn't even have Tim Tams in my house, let alone an open packet of Tim Tams in my house. Do you know what I mean? It's just an unrealistic expectation. And so you need to understand yourself. People think that they should be able to sit around and, you know, watch everyone else, you know, or sit there with pizza and not eat pizza. And we just have these unrealistic expectations.
Unrealistic expectations, exactly. And not a lot of compassion for ourselves, or, you know, where we're at and what we are dealing with. Like, that's
absolutely.
A really big thing I find with my clients is not a lot of compassion. And I guess it's our conditioning of how, you know, we've come to know weight and, you know, the consequences of feeling the way we do. There's so much wrapped up in weight. You know, it's such a multi-layered, complicated issue, because there's all the emotional ties, there's all the health aspects. And, you know, I absolutely think we need to fall in love with our bodies. And I think that, you know, those movements are fantastic, but also we need to understand the health impacts of carrying all of that excess weight. And so it's difficult. We live in a world where we're just constantly bombarded with these, you know, addictive foods, and it's huge, you know. And I think anyone listening to this needs to just take a deep breath and realize that it's not something that you can solve overnight. And in actual fact, it's a journey. And in that journey, there will be ups and downs. And we need to look through look at ourselves in that lens of love and, you know, compassion, like you say. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. It is definitely a journey.
Yeah, talk about it a lot. Thank you so much, Dani'elle. It's been so great getting to know you and what you do and how you help your beautiful clients. And so how can people get in contact with you?
I do have my website, or you can find me on social media, over at Instagram and also Facebook. Yeah.
So that's right. And your business name is actually your name, which is Dani'elle Barra, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And I'll put the links in the show notes anyway. So
wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See you later.
Bye.